The National Security Live-Action Roleplay, or NSLARP, operates on the principle that decentralized teams must make critical decisions without direct oversight. While traditional hierarchies enforce discipline and morality through rigid chains of command, decentralized systems rely on individual agency to maintain both effectiveness and ethical integrity. The collapse of centralized authority does not eliminate the need for moral guidance, it makes it even more essential. Without a shared ethical foundation, autonomous teams risk drifting into chaos, corruption, or unintended harm. At the core of every decentralized system lies the individual. Each operative, each team member, is responsible for making ethical choices in real time, often in ambiguous or high-pressure situations. In the absence of a rigid command structure, moral clarity must emerge from within, not as an imposed doctrine, but as an internalized framework for ethical reasoning, decision-making, and strategic action. The ability to make decisive yet responsible choices is not optional. It is the foundation upon which decentralized security and intelligence networks must operate. This is where the Quantum Jesus protocols come in, not a doctrine, but a tool set for navigating moral dilemmas, balancing autonomy with responsibility, and ensuring that security does not become oppression, nor strategy become deception. Just as NSLARP teams are structured in triads for resilience and adaptability, ethics must also follow a triadic model, one that ensures every decision is grounded in truth-seeking, compassionate action, and strategic execution. The quantum analogy helps us explain this dynamic model in technical terms. Ethical decision-making is not static, it exists in a state of superposition until a choice is made, collapsing multiple possibilities into a single course of action. Just as in quantum mechanics, the act of observation alters reality, and ethical clarity emerges only through continuous engagement with truth, intent, and consequence. Quantum Jesus teaches us that rigid moral absolutes cannot survive in a complex and unpredictable world. Instead, moral intelligence must be adaptable, self-correcting, and capable of operating within uncertainty. By integrating Quantum Jesus into NSLARP operations, we create a self-sustaining moral system that reinforces justice, adaptability, and strategic effectiveness, ensuring that decentralized action remains principled, sustainable, and aligned with a higher purpose. When every individual within the system embraces this framework, ethical cohesion is no longer enforced from above. It emerges organically from the structure of the network itself. A decentralized actor cannot simply follow orders. They must develop their own internal compass, capable of guiding them through moral ambiguity and high-stakes decision-making. Quantum Jesus provides this foundation through three guiding principles: truth-seeking, compassionate action, and strategic execution. Each principle represents a different phase of ethical decision-making, ensuring that every action taken is the result of careful observation, moral deliberation, and intelligent adaptation to circumstances. Truth-seeking, also known as the observer principle, is the foundation of ethical action. Just as in quantum mechanics, where the act of observation influences reality, so too does perception shape the ethical landscape. Decisions must be made with an awareness of bias, incomplete information, and competing narratives. A counterintelligence officer must recognize the difference between paranoia and justified suspicion, just as a diplomat must see through deception without projecting their own biases onto a negotiation. To act ethically, one must first see reality as clearly as possible, recognizing both its limitations and its potential for distortion. Compassionate action, the wave function of intent, ensures that moral decisions are not reduced to cold utilitarian calculations. In quantum mechanics, a wave function holds multiple possibilities until it collapses into one. Similarly, ethical actors must hold space for multiple perspectives before making a decision. The key is not to act impulsively, but to weigh choices with a sense of justice, balance, and sustainability. A cybersecurity specialist deciding whether to expose a vulnerability or weaponize it must consider not only the immediate tactical advantage but also the long-term consequences for both their own network and the broader ecosystem of trust. A tactical response team must weigh when force is necessary and when restraint will serve the greater good. Ethics is not about rigid rules but about maintaining a field of possibilities and ensuring that the one ultimately chosen serves a just outcome. Strategic execution, or superposition and collapsing choice, is the ability to remain adaptable while maintaining ethical integrity. A decentralized actor must be able to shift between different modes of engagement, diplomacy, deception, force, or transparency, without losing their moral grounding. Just as a quantum system exists in multiple states until observed, a well-trained operator must remain in ethical superposition, prepared to apply the right tool for the right moment. The key is to understand that morality is not static. It is dynamic, requiring continuous recalibration as new information emerges. Whether a diplomat must choose between offering an alliance or orchestrating the downfall of a rival, or whether a counterintelligence team must decide between exposing an enemy asset or turning them into an unwitting informant, the principle remains the same. Ethical flexibility is not the abandonment of principles, but their highest expression in a complex world. Because decentralized teams do not have a command structure dictating their every move, they must develop ethical intelligence as a self-correcting process. Each triad within an operational team ensures balance, preventing individual biases or blind spots from leading to reckless or unethical choices. A counterintelligence team must ensure that deception remains targeted at adversaries rather than becoming a habitual mode of engagement that corrodes trust. A cybersecurity team must weigh the ethics of revealing adversarial exploits against the risk of allowing threats to persist unseen. A diplomatic team must determine when narrative control serves the greater good and when it risks turning into propaganda. These are not simple questions, and there are no universal answers, only the discipline of ethical reasoning, continuously refined and tested in real-world conditions. Through this process, Quantum Jesus becomes not just a framework, but a living moral system, growing stronger with each iteration. Teams are not expected to blindly adopt its principles, but to refine them, challenge them, and contribute new variations. Just as operational triads provide tactical flexibility, ethical triads provide moral resilience, ensuring that security does not become synonymous with repression, nor autonomy with chaos. A decentralized system is only as strong as the ethical clarity of its participants, and Quantum Jesus exists to sharpen that clarity. We will demonstrate with an example. Ask, and it will be given to you. Seek, and you will find. Knock, and it will be open to you. Matthew 7:7. Scripture communicates its deepest truths in triads, concise yet profound structures that, when properly understood, serve as both wisdom and method. The power of Matthew 7:7 lies not only in its spiritual guidance but in its practical application. It offers a self-correcting process for decision-making, one that ensures clarity before action and adaptability after it. In a decentralized system where teams must operate autonomously, ask, seek, knock is more than an ethical suggestion. It is a survival principle. To act without first asking the right question leads to recklessness. To seek without refining the inquiry leads to wasted effort. To knock before understanding what lies beyond the door leads to unintended consequences. But when applied correctly, this triad forms a complete cycle of ethical and strategic reasoning, one that allows individuals and teams to navigate uncertainty with precision. Let's now walk through an applied example, demonstrating how Matthew 7:7 serves as a guiding principle in counterintelligence operations. A decentralized system demands ethical self-sufficiency. Without rigid hierarchies to dictate morality, individuals and teams must develop a dynamic, self-correcting process for making decisions in complex, high-stakes environments. The triadic model of ask, seek, and knock provides this process, ensuring that ethical clarity emerges not as a static rule set, but as a living, evolving interaction between inquiry, exploration, and decisive action. Each element of the triad is not merely a step, but a force that shapes and refines the others. To understand this, we must move beyond linear progression and instead view ask, seek, and knock as a self-sustaining ethical cycle. Asking initiates the process, but it is not just about gathering information. It creates the conditions for seeking. A question framed poorly leads to aimless searching, while a precise question guides the pursuit of knowledge in the right direction. Seeking deepens the process, but its success depends on the quality of what was asked. At the same time, seeking generates new questions, forcing a refinement of the initial ask. The more we explore, the clearer we see what we don't know. Knocking is the culmination of the process, the moment when uncertainty collapses into decisive action. But the nature of that action depends on how well the asking and seeking were conducted. An impatient knock, uninformed by proper questioning and exploration, can result in poorly timed, misdirected, or even unethical action. Yet the process does not end with the knock. Every action taken generates new conditions, new questions, and new areas to seek understanding. This is the self-correcting loop that allows decentralized actors to remain ethical, adaptive, and precise without requiring a central authority to guide them. To illustrate this dynamic in action, let's consider an operational scenario that requires moral clarity, strategic thinking, and decisive execution. Imagine a counterintelligence team working within a decentralized network, tasked with uncovering and neutralizing a potential adversarial infiltration into their ranks. Ask. The first instinct might be to ask, who is the infiltrator? But this question assumes too much. It presumes that the threat has already taken a recognizable form. Instead, a more effective ask might be, where are we vulnerable? Or, what patterns of behavior might indicate compromise? This shift in framing prevents the team from locking onto a premature assumption, ensuring that their subsequent search is expansive rather than restrictive. Seek. Guided by the refined ask, the team begins an active investigation. They analyze communications, look for unusual behavioral patterns, and track potential points of external influence. The search is not passive, it is iterative, meaning that the initial seeking often leads to new questions. They may find discrepancies in operational protocols requiring them to ask, is this anomaly the result of infiltration or just human error? This question then guides a deeper, more precise search. The seeking process keeps refining the inquiry, preventing the team from being blinded by their initial assumptions. Knock. At some point, further seeking will not yield significantly greater clarity. The moment arrives when action must be taken. But what kind of action? If seeking has been conducted correctly, the team will know whether to confront, mislead, expose, or turn the infiltrator into an asset. If seeking has been rushed or misdirected, they risk acting on incomplete or misinterpreted data, leading to false accusations, operational paranoia, or a missed threat. Now let's take this further. Suppose the team successfully identifies an infiltrator and chooses to control rather than remove them, feeding them false intelligence to mislead their handlers. This strategic knock does not conclude the process. It generates new questions such as, how will they react to disinformation? Or, what additional access might we gain by keeping them in place? These questions initiate the next cycle of ask, seek, and knock, allowing the team to continually refine their strategy rather than acting in a static, rigid manner. This model ensures that every ethical and strategic decision is guided by a continuous process of self-correction. Instead of relying on top-down orders, individuals and teams cultivate a refined sense of judgment, ensuring that their actions are neither impulsive nor paralyzed by indecision. In this way, ask, seek, knock becomes more than a method. It becomes an operating principle. It prevents rash action, deepens strategic insight, and ensures that every choice emerges from clarity, not assumption. It is a living ethical system, continuously refining itself through the wisdom of those who engage with it. The true power of the quantum Jesus protocols lies in their ability to scale without losing integrity. Traditional hierarchical ethics are brittle. When top leadership is compromised, the entire system collapses. In contrast, a decentralized ethical model strengthens as it is applied because each decision-maker actively engages in refining and reinforcing the principles that guide them. The more these triadic ethical models are tested, the more adaptable and resilient they become, creating a network of autonomous agents whose moral cohesion does not depend on centralized authority. A system like this cannot be imposed from the top down. It must emerge organically from those who engage with it. Fortunately, the foundational source material for Quantum Jesus is already decentralized. It is freely available, widely distributed, and hidden in plain sight. The New Testament, an open-source document of moral intelligence, requires only interpretation through an intelligence lens to reveal the triadic ethical structures embedded within it. Unlike classified security protocols or restricted ethical manuals, this source is accessible to anyone, anywhere, at any time. Those who can extract and apply its triadic wisdom gain an ethical advantage that is both scalable and self-sustaining. By demonstrating how to interpret these ethical triads, the Quantum Jesus protocols are seeding the process of decentralized moral intelligence. Each team will adapt these principles to their own circumstances, refining them into a system that belongs to those who use it. In this way, Quantum Jesus ensures that decentralized security remains not just effective, but just. When fully realized, this framework guarantees that autonomous teams can operate without losing sight of their greater purpose. It prevents decentralized action from degenerating into unchecked force or aimless chaos. It ensures that when the moment of decision comes, when the wave function of possibilities collapses into action, those who step forward do so not just with strength but with wisdom.